I have here the latest release from Anglican Liturgy Press, the liturgical imprint of Anglican House Publishers. It is the altar book, the altar edition of the Book of Common Prayer 2019, created in collaboration with Lego printers in Vicenza, Italy. Here it is. The same bookbinders and printers that we utilized in the creation of the Gospel book. So here it is, like the Gospel book, it is red cowhide over board. We were able to set this actually over thicker boards since altar book is likely to receive heavier use. And then in design, it was designed to also be easily distinguishable from the Gospel book by its styling here, so that members of the altar guild or deacon or priest can clearly recognize it, that it's not the Gospel book, it is in fact the altar book. It was designed so that when it's sitting on the altar, parallel to the Gospel book, that it would make a nice matching pair. So the Gospel book has Christ seated in majesty, and designed by that same artist, Daniel Mitsui, this Christogram, JHS, the name of our Lord Jesus, with crucifix and chalice. And then we have this blind stamping in a 16th century stamping style. Some of the work decorative, line art, and then also the instruments of the Passion also stamped into the cover. So let's see, it was printed on very fine and thick 120 GSM ivory paper, actually a very sort of light cream color. It's the thickest paper you can get that will still lie flat. Any thicker and it would stand up like this. About twice as thick as the paper in the standard prayer book edition, so that it can handle years and years and years of heavy use. It has 5 ribbons matching the seasonal colors, ribbons that are butterfly sewn at the end. This was really a spare no expense project. From top to bottom over the several years of its design and production, thinking through what are the aspects that make an altar book most useful, most durable, most efficient. And so it's got the heavy PVC liner like the Gospel book, attaching the binding, ribbons that will never fray, nice thick ribbons that make a page very easy to turn to and won't snag on the page. Some traditional Christian woodcut art in red throughout the book. And then whereas in the Pew edition of the Book of Common Prayer, the rubrics are italicized and printed all in black, here all rubrics have been rendered, let's have a look at a page. Rubrics have been rendered in red in a standard Roman typeface, which is the same Adobe Caslon as the Book of Common Prayer, the Pew edition. And then page numbers of the standard edition are included throughout at places where the celebrant might be inclined to point the congregation to which page is being prayed from. Here you could easily see in black text, oh, if this is the Anglican standard, we're praying from page 115 in the standard edition. The initial capital letters are the same style as the Gospel book, created initially by the artist Gaudi. And then one of the features which users of the 1979 altar edition will not be familiar with, but has been carefully designed for this altar book, is the tabs. So these tabs are created in such a way where every liturgy that you'd ever celebrate, whether Anglican Standard or Renewed Ancient, whether said or sung, begins with this tab marked with a cross. So we turn to it, and here we have the acclamation, the 3 cardinal ones, which are printed in line in the Book of Common Prayer. And if you'd like to chant them, indented with a red line indicating its optional nature, there's the chanted version of the same. So every liturgy will begin on the same page. And then from there, the celebrant can choose. We of course have the collects of the Christian year. And so whether the book is in the hand from a presiding chair, whether the book is on the altar and that's where the celebrant begins from, all the various sort of liturgical choices that are made in different spaces and different usages across the province, this book should be able to serve handily. So there's the collects, and then from there to choose, black tabs indicate a celebration that is said, and red tabs indicate a celebration that is sung. And what we'll find is that the rubrics of the Book of Common Prayer Standard Edition indicate that things like the prayers of the people between Anglican Standard and Renewed Ancient are interchangeable. So those are printed here in parallel columns So that should you like to use the Anglican Standard prayers of the people, there they are, or there's the renewed ancient prayers of the people. And prior to the offertory, the liturgies between renewed ancient and Anglican Standard are just about identical. Hence, they can utilize the same section. And then when you come to the prayer of the Sursum Corda, which is the same, the proper prefaces are all included, and the full text of the proper preface is all here. So beginning with it is right, our duty and our joy, the proper preface, and then the conclusion, therefore we praise you, are all there so that you don't have to turn pages in the middle. You go straight into the Sanctus, and then you choose, are you celebrating an Anglican Standard liturgy? In which case, there's your Anglican Standard tab. There's the prayer of consecration. Or renewed ancient, you turn to renewed ancient. So you're always going to be working your way vertically down the tab sequence for their celebration of the liturgy. If it's a sung celebration, here we have, for the Anglican Standard, there's the Sanctus, and then there's the sung Eucharistic doxology, the sung traditional Gregorian Lord's Prayer, and so on and so on. One additional feature in this book that is a new contribution to our liturgical life, as well as in the appendix, the various chants for Holy Week, the final form of the Exultet, things like that. There's also a full chanted version of the prayer of consecration, both Anglican Standard and renewed ancient. So, for a sung celebration of Holy Communion, the singing could begin with the Sursum Corda all the way through to the fraction, and the whole thing be sung. So that's a new contribution to our liturgical life that I'm excited will be introduced to our province with this altar edition. All of the prayers in this altar edition are taken from the Book of Common Prayer 2019, the Standard Pew Edition, with rearrangements according to use. So the exhortation, which occurs in the supplemental texts for the Eucharist, is placed in the altar book in line where it would be, so that you're never having to flip back and forth. That after you have prayed the prayers of the people, then should you like to use the exhortation, it's right there in line. Note the vertical line indicating that it's optional for use, as the rubrics indicate. And then you bid the confession. And then there's the confession, etc. So it's the exact same text as the Book of Common Prayer, but rearranged for usefulness and expediency for the celebrant. So similarly, at the very beginning of the book, occasional prayers that occur towards the back of the Standard Edition are here in the front for use by the celebrant in the sacristy or what have you. So there it is, the altar edition, the altar book of the Book of Common Prayer 2019. I'm extraordinarily pleased with how this has turned out. Like I said, no expense was spared in its production, and this book should, God willing, last for centuries of worship in the church. Included inside the custom box, which houses the book, is also a card, which is just a free gift from Anglican Liturgy Press of vesting prayers that can be had in the sacristy, or additional devotional prayers that some celebrants may choose to utilize in the midst of the liturgy optionally. So there it is, the Altar Book 2019.